Valentina Petrillo, a 51-year-old transgender athlete, recently made headlines at the Paralympics in Paris for her participation in the women's 400 meters event in the visually impaired category. Despite failing to qualify for the final, Petrillo's presence has ignited a firestorm of controversy, sparking intense debates about fairness, inclusion, and the integrity of women's sports. Petrillo, who was born male and competed in men's track and field until the age of 45, transitioned and began competing in women's events afterward. Her participation in the Paralympics marked a significant moment as it brought to the forefront the complex and often contentious discussions surrounding transgender athletes in women's sports. On the track, Petrillo's performance in the semifinals of the 400 meters was notable for its emotional intensity. Despite achieving a personal best time of 57.58 seconds, Petrillo fell short of reaching the final. This time, while commendable, was significantly slower than the qualifying standard for male athletes in the same category, which is set at 54.00 seconds. Nonetheless, Petrillo described her Paralympic experience as a triumph of inclusion, expressing that the event was not just a race but a symbol of her right to be recognized and accepted for who she is. However, Petrillo's inclusion in the women's event did not come without consequences. One of the most poignant stories to emerge from this situation involves Lorraine Gomes de Aguiar, a 27-year-old Brazilian athlete who was narrowly denied a place in the final. Gomes de Aguiar, who lost her left eye to a rare cancer as a child, was pushed out of contention for the final by Petrillo's involvement, finishing as the fastest loser. This outcome has fueled the ongoing debate about whether it is fair for transgender women to compete against biological women in sports. The controversy surrounding Petrillo's participation was further inflamed by J.K. Rowling, the world-renowned author of the Harry Potter series, who has been an outspoken critic of the inclusion of transgender women in female sports. Rowling took to social media to condemn Petrillo's participation, sarcastically referring to her as an out and proud cheat, and likening the situation to giving back medals to disgraced athletes like Lance Armstrong. Rowling's comments reflect a broader frustration among those who feel that allowing transgender women to compete against biological women undermines the principles of fair competition. Petrillo, however, remained defiant in the face of criticism. In a tearful post-race interview, she expressed her hope that her young son would be proud of his trans dad, and emphasized that she was simply being true to herself. She urged people not to be afraid of transgender individuals and to recognize the suffering and discrimination they often face. "I can't help it if I'm like this," Petrillo said, asking for understanding and acceptance rather than condemnation. Despite the overwhelming criticism, Petrillo stood firm, declaring that her participation in the Paralympics was a historic moment for transgender inclusion in sports. She acknowledged that the situation raises legitimate questions, particularly for those who might feel disadvantaged by competing against a transgender athlete. Yet, she insisted that the pursuit of inclusion must be at the forefront of sports, arguing that a solution needs to be found that respects the rights and dignity of all athletes. Petrillo's remarks underscored the emotional complexity of the issue, as she spoke about the dangers faced by transgender individuals, including violence, discrimination, and exclusion from society. She expressed her determination to continue competing and to use her platform to advocate for greater acceptance and understanding of transgender athletes.